Hi everyone, I'm David Farmer and welcome to my channel. This morning I wanted to talk a little bit about this apparent separate self, this apparent separate body-mind complex, and try to point you to the fact that there is no separate self. Now, this is something that often, can take a little while to reconcile because, it seems so obvious, right? There's this, there's me here and there's a world out there. And of course I'm separate. So it's so ingrained, this misunderstanding, it's so ingrained. And can therefore just take a little while for this sort of to kind of unwind itself. Some people, can get it in a split second and there's no returning. But for others, it often takes a little bit of time just to kind of, really see clearly this fact that there is no separate self. So to point out this, there's a couple of metaphors that are commonly used in non-duality. And the first one you've probably heard of, which is the metaphor of the wave on the ocean. So the wave rises and falls, rises from the ocean, falls back into the ocean. The wave is intrinsically part of the ocean. It's made of the same stuff that the ocean is made of. But it's not separate from the ocean. So when it rises, we label it a wave, but it's really just ocean. So how absurd would it be for this wave to believe itself to be separate, to look at other seeming waves and say, I'm a separate entity. But that's what everybody is doing. So that's a really good metaphor. And obviously the ocean is a metaphor for consciousness. And another good metaphor, and one which I really resonated with because it's a metaphor which is commonly used in Zen. It's been used for hundreds of years in Zen practice. And because I lived in Japan for a very long time and informally studied Zen over there, it's one that I really resonated with and still resonate with. And that's the metaphor of the dewdrop. So if you imagine, and bear in mind, these metaphors are just that, they're metaphors. What they're pointing to must be felt and known within your own experience. But as a means of pointing, the metaphor of the dewdrop is very good. So if you imagine a dewdrop on let's say the tip of a blade of grass, or in Zen it would be a dewdrop on a lotus leaf, which is the imagery which is often used there. But imagine a dewdrop, let's say, just dangling from the end of a blade of grass. Its entire immediate environment is reflected within it. the dewdrop has no experience of an outside world. It only has an experience of reflection. So imagine if that dewdrop had ears. Any sound would be felt within itself. Just as if you imagine our dewdrop is really a large eye, isn't it? Everything is reflected and perceived, seen within itself. Imagine if the dewdrop had a nose. All smells would be felt within itself. Imagine if that dewdrop had taste. You can see where I'm going with this, right? Imagine if the dewdrop had taste. Everything would be tasted within itself. And similarly, touch. Imagine if the dewdrop could touch. Anything touched, the sensation is felt within itself. So everything is really just reflected. And interestingly, everything appears, from the point of view of the dewdrop, everything appears at zero distance within itself. And I've made another video which I will put up there for you to have a look at, which talks about the illusion of distance. But if we take this metaphor of the dewdrop, we realize, everything is just this miraculous illusion. And if we want, we can extend the metaphor. Imagine if the dewdrop was not limited to the end of the blade of grass. Imagine if the dewdrop could walk around. Walking around, reflecting its immediate environment. Walking around and interacting with other dewdrops. I think I'm starting to stretch it really thin now, but you get the idea. Also, from the point of view of the dewdrop, everything seemingly exists in probability. Nothing exists for the dewdrop until it is rendered in its experience. Just take a moment for that to sit in, to sink in. Nothing exists until it is rendered in its experience. So to use another metaphor, a metaphor within a metaphor, if you imagine you're playing one of these virtual reality games, you've got these goggles on, let's say it's a driving game, let's say you're driving some kind of vehicle, some kind of car, and you're looking down the road, you turn your head to the right, and a whole new vista is rendered within the game. and that which was previously rendered is no longer rendered. So therefore, it's, as far as you're concerned now, that doesn't exist. When you turn your head back, the road is rendered again in your experience, and the view off to the side no longer exists. So the dewdrop is really just a reflecting vehicle, a device, an aspect of consciousness used so that consciousness can know itself as form. Now, to draw a parallel with the wave metaphor, how absurd would it be for the dewdrop to believe it was separate, to believe it was a separate being? The dewdrop itself is part of what is an aspect of what is. It's a reflecting vehicle, but it's still part of what is happening, what is going on. But we believe we are the driver of our own personal vehicle. Whereas in reality, we have no more control over what is than a reflecting dewdrop. But you don't need to worry about not being in control, because you never were in control. God is at the wheel. Control is simply an illusion born of thought. By the time something has happened in what is, it's already happened. Thought will come up later and say, oh, I did it, or I'm in control of it, but that's always later. So this human experience is just a reflection of the mind of God, which we are seemingly walking around in. Now, I've used the word God there, don't freak out. I could equally have used consciousness, awareness, conscious awareness, or infinite being. All of which are impersonal. So to really point to the truth of this, just take a moment to rest in awareness. Just rest. Be very aware. Take a look around you and ask, is anything separate from awareness? Perceptions, sounds, feelings, sensations, touch, whatever. Rest as awareness and ask, is anything separate from awareness? And notice that everything in awareness is simply the contents of your own mind, which is impersonal. If you want to know the contents of your own mind, just have a look around. And also notice that everything is going on perfectly well. It's just happening by itself. So remain here as effortless being. Effortless flow state. And notice that effortless being is simply infinite being manifest. So that's my 2 cents on the apparent separate self today. I hope that's resonated and has pointed some things out. If you did enjoy it, if you have something you'd like to comment about, please write a comment in the box below. Please also like, share and subscribe to the channel, which would really help my content go out to a wider audience. Or if you would like a private session with me, if there's some things you would like to discuss or talk about with me, you can easily book a session on my website, effortlessbeing.org. So I hope everything is going well with you, and it's a little bit sunnier than my very wet and cold day here in Scotland. But nonetheless, have a great day, and I'll see you next time.